Yeah. Okay, welcome. Justice and the role of lamentation in its fulfillment. So Tom has posed the question or raised this issue of inequality or injustice in an economic sense, in a social sense, in the ethical domain. And I've been on the subject of uh, lamentation, and we've had a hunch that they would or could perhaps meet at quite an interesting place or moment. So what I'm going to do here is just offer some cursory notes of related concepts of justice and how lamentation might fit. It's a little slideshow. It's not meant to be exhaustive or absolutely correct. It's just something to begin to gather thoughts and to begin thinking this subject. So justice and the role of lamentation in its fulfillment. I'm just going to share my screen. There we go, there's the title. So this painting is by John Martin, I think his name is. It's Belshazaar's Feast. It's an event recorded in the book of Daniel. At some time during the feast, a hand appears and it writes on the wall, the writing on the wall. That's Daniel in the middle pointing to the writing. And what it says is mene, tekel, uparshin, meaning counted, weighed, divided, or numbered, weighed, divided. So there's different interpretations of this, but you'll see in a moment how it really sets up and gives an image of our themes, which are types of justice, and then how they play out in a state, which might be where the lamentation comes in. But not to get ahead of ourselves, Belshazzar is killed by the end of this evening or the next evening. And it's a scene marked for its excess and its blasphemy. They were using the cups that were taken from the temple in Jerusalem as that were used in that context for ceremony, and they were drinking from cups. That's just some side notes. So 3 types of justice. It's nice to get mathematical almost. You have arithmetic, judgment, geometric, and then substantive. Substantive is of a different kind. So let's look at the mathematical ones first, arithmetic and geometric, or corrective justice. Arithmetic justice is something like exact equivalence, maybe like an eye for an eye principle, and operates through compensation or punishment. Geometric or distributive is justice that operates through proportion. So it allocates, say, burdens and rewards based on merit, need, or role. So taxation, if you earn more, you are taxed more. Or if you are a good scholar, you might be awarded a scholarship. There's a parable in the book of Matthew 25 where a master goes away and gives talents to the different servants. He gives to the one servant 5, and by the time he comes back, that servant has made out of those 5, 10, and the other servant gets 2, and when he comes back, he's made another 2, so he has 4, and then the one who's given 1 just keeps the 1. There's so this is Matthew 25:29. For everyone who has will be given more, and he will have abundance. Whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken from him. So that it's an image of proportion, of proportionate giving, which is our image of the distributive or geometric justice. Both of these justices operate within a system. That brings us to the third account, substantive justice, or teleological fulfilled justice. Justice as alignment with the good. This has to do with the justice of the system itself. So where the first 2 are within a system, this is about the justice of the system as a whole, whether it's right or wrong. So it's associated here with the biblical concept of shalom, wholeness, something like that. Okay, relationship between the three types, arithmetic. It's probably best for us to think about how they relate to one another rather than trying to argue for one over the other. Arithmetic, more at the individual level, compensation, geometric, organized society, substantive, evaluates whether the entire system is truly just. Key idea, arithmetic and geometric justice function within a system, and substantive justice asks whether the system itself is right. The question of philosophy, I think, occurs at the substantive level. So, introducing lamentation. Lamentation as the first step toward justice. Now, it's not on the slide, but I'll read it. It's a poem or a condensed statement of the kind of thought that's involved here. In the fruition of lamentation is the seed of faith. By lament, hope is liberated from what is seen. Such is the faith from which the world is made. Okay, that's just maybe poetically framing for a moment lamentation or lament. There's an idea that lamentation itself is an expression of a kind of faith, and perhaps quite a radical faith. Here we go. Lamentation is a recognition and articulation of disorder, naming injustice and calling for transformation. So how it relates to justice. Arithmetic justice, lamentation is cry for restitution. So this is just GPT making some connections and associations, creating the foundation for a conversation for us. We're just clearing ground, identifying the conceptual space. Geometric justice, lamentation exposes disproportionate suffering. Substantive justice, lamentation testifies that justice has not yet been fulfilled. It demands realignment beyond mere compensation or redistribution, because it's the question that occurs as to the goodness of the system as a whole rather than the functioning of distribution and payback within the system. So lamentation is a covenant with justice. Lamentation is not despair, but hope. It calls for the fulfillment of true justice. Calamity itself is a demonstration of lawful unfolding. So this is the idea that God's wrath is not his anger, but it's a demonstration of his justice. So it's this consequence. It's a consequence of injustice is the wrath that we read about. So the flip side, or what's involved in that, is that because of God's covenantal faithfulness, or because of his lawfulness, where there is injustice or where justice has been violated, he will repay that, or that injustice will be repaid. The other side of that is then because injustice is repaid, justice is also paid. So there's the seed of hope in the judgment itself. I hope that point was clear. I kind of stumbled. So a key insight, according to GPT, is it's better to suffer injustice than to be unjust oneself. Lamentation aligns with this principle by bearing witness to what is broken without perpetuating further injustice. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack in that, and Plato might be a partner there. And then to conclude, justice is more than balance and proportion. It is something to be fulfilled. Now the question, this comes into the determination of right, the determination of what is good, which is why it's often left out of modern conversations of justice that would oscillate between the redistributive and I'm forgetting the corrective, the eye for an eye. So yeah, we have some parables or some accounts there. There's this biblical principle of an eye for an eye, tax tolerance, or I'm not sure. Then we have the parable of the talents, where those who have more will be given more. That's that proportional justice according to merit, where it's weighed, and the true justice requires both recognition of wrongs and alignment with righteousness. Okay. As the painting again, so if you remember, it was mene, tekel, uparshin. So with the numbered, or accounted, or counted, we have that first account of justice, which is about it's arithmetic, or corrective, like counting one for one, and payback is one for one kind of situation. Then tekel is a kind of weighing, a kind of proportioning, and then uparshin is divided. So some people read this as the consequence of the injustice in the counting and the injustice in the weighing means that the kingdom becomes divided. But we can also read uparshin as part of that. Well, yeah, maybe let's read it in that third one, the substantive, which is also bringing in this theme of the wholeness, say the wholeness of the state, its unity with itself, the wholeness of the whole system. The injustice within the system causes division in the whole. It makes it divided with itself. Okay, rad. Let me stop sharing there. We'll see if Tom's still with us.
I'm here. I'm alive.
Epic. And Sipho's here. Rad.
Yeah, sorry. You were on a roll. I was going to tell you, but you were on a roll, and I thought it would be rude to interrupt.
Okay. No, that's dope. I'm glad he got in.
I like what you've actually been very fruitful. I don't know how you've bridged a little gap. I mean, I was a bit unsure of where to even begin to look for, because I did a little Google search on proportionate and arithmetic. So your insight into lex talionis and versus proportional justice. So that introduces distinctions within justice. But I think that's interesting. I think that's very interesting. The one thing I just wanted, maybe I think differently. Maybe we just are operating from different assumptions here and different data points. I think we have to accept a certain. I don't think that rich people should have to pay more tax necessarily. I'm coming in hot. I think that we should.
Okay. Yeah, let me.
I just want to.
Yeah, sure.
I think that a certain degree of freedom in our exchanges is going to necessarily produce inequalities, and if we let people be, at. I think it's a question of. I don't. When we say pay more. It's an interesting thing, because how do you equate what's a fair share, and how do you equate what's those are I guess we're kind of in the business of working that out or a frame of that. It very quickly becomes punitive of virtue to think too long along those lines of like, well, people who are richer should pay more.
Yes.
And it can also be it hides the seeds of resentment and envy at rich people.
Yeah.
So there's also, if you're rich, there's a higher duty on you as well. I guess I would say I would frame it maybe a bit more like that. There's a higher duty. Sorry, Dan.
Yeah, that's that's brilliant. I was excited to press in there, and you brought out the other dimension at the end as well, which is really good. Like, so I mean, the first thing that I wanted to say was the other side of that, the allergy to the rich being taxed more, is that it's the same principle that benefits those who have more virtues, say. So like to those who have more will be given.
Yes.
And that it's the same, it seems to be the same principle that's operating. So there's an aversion to it at the site of taxation, because but then when there's rewarding merit, then there isn't an aversion. So there's a contradiction at that level. But just the last point is that your inclusion of virtue is what takes us from the distributive justice, which is happening geometrically and proportionally, what we're talking about, and it puts it into the substantive. And that's where our question of like what the right is or what the good is or what justice is becomes relevant. Does that mapping make sense?
Yeah. Okay. So I see. Okay. So sorry. I'm still thinking of substantive when I'm thinking of equality. I'm still thinking of substantive equality. But now you're talking about substantive justice, which is a slightly substantive equality is usually construed in purely economic terms.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not meaning that. I'm meaning more this distinction, like the corrective or like 1-for-1 justice is arithmetic, then the geometric is this proportional distributive, and both of those happen within a system. The substantive is the question of the justice of the system itself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the system itself gives the idea of what is virtuous within the system or what is fair.
And what is proportionate, and then
it
gives the measure. It gives the measure. The question are these measures even just?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yes. Oh, great.
I think I'm with you.
Yeah. Sipho, how's it going? How much did you check there?
I arrived when you were defining the different types of justice.
Okay, right.
Yeah. So I caught quite a bit, but I obviously don't know where you started.
I think that was pretty much the beginning.
Oh, okay.
Any thoughts off the bat or?
No, I'm taking it in and thinking about it. I was particularly fascinated by I think your claim was you describe lamentation not as a steady state, but as an activity that goes towards something.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, I found that interesting, and I think I might actually agree with you because it seems just the existence of it is an acknowledgement of something lacking. Like, I mean, you didn't put it in such words, but it seems already that the acknowledgement of the something lacking, well, it seems to put two things together, actually. It seems to have the first step, which is acknowledging something is lacking, and then setting an end, which I guess in this particular conversation, the end was justice. But it also seems to be the activity in between setting the aim and moving towards justice. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
It doesn't seem to just be the desire for justice, but also the attempt to achieve the desire.
Yeah, how would you expand that? Because like I'm with you, but how do you see lamentation? Like how would you, I mean, how would it come up? Yeah, how does it help achieve? It seems like a golden question. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I guess I'm more accepting of it as the first part, as in the establishing of an end. But I feel like the motion has to be something else. Like something else has to go towards the end. I don't know if I'm making sense. The
No.
example I usually think of and I use sometimes is a foot race, right? Like starting a foot race is different from running the race, even though they're part of the same thing. Like I have to start the race in order to continue running the race. So yeah, lamentation seems like the beginning for some reason. So I feel like something else must follow lamentation before we get to justice.
Okay.
Wouldn't you? So can I throw something in here? I don't know if this is following on or trailing off here, but lamentation seems to be a necessary condition for it to. All is not right in the world. Something in the world has to be unjust or not right.
There's a recognition
and that's either in me or in the world, and there's a kind of lamentation seems to be born of suffering. You have to suffer to lament or be suffering.
Yeah.
So something has to be out of place.
Sorry, repeat that, Sipho, sorry?
Seems something has to be out of place, and then lamentation seems to be the recognition for something being out of place, and also the desire towards, I think Dan put it in his presentation, the desire towards a correction of the thing that is out of place. But correcting, having something corrected, still the difference between a motion and an end. So, yeah, lamentation to me seems like the beginning of the process.
So then if we take that, if we run with that, then we're saying that lamentation is the desire. It's either a species of or is the desire for justice.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But it sounded like in the presentation, it sounded like it was both the desire and the motion towards justice. But I don't know. I'm just thinking in my head that things seem distinct, and I don't know. For some reason, repentance came to mind as the thing that follows lamentation.
Yes, I also thought of that.
But
you have to. I mean, it seems to be part of lamentation. Also seems to be part of. You say repentance and then forgiveness. Those three seem to kind of. There's a kind of a procedure, or I don't want to say procedure, or process is about the same. Between that you need to be, in order to repent, you need to lament, and in order to be forgiven, you have to be repentful. You have to repent. So there has to be this kind of a recognition that I've done something wrong, and then I lament it, and that pushes me into repentance. That pushes me into repentance. And then through that I am forgiven and love, and then love re-enters the world fully.
It seems like the end. So it seems the three of them are like start. The beginning point is the lamentation, repentance is the motion, and then the end is the restoration or forgiveness, whatever word we want to use to describe.
Well, I think that's just one aspect, because I mean, there's certain things that are like, we lament, or we also, there's something to do with lamenting and grieving. That's a big part of what we like when we lose our parents, or we lose our friends, or we lose just anything that we love. We lament that we haven't got that thing that we actually want.
So I think there's like go for it, Tom.
I was just going to say that, but there's just one spanner that I could throw in there, but it's a little bit of a quibble. But to say that lamenting is the motion, you had, I think you corrected this, but saying lamenting is the motion is a bit wrong, because many people lament but never see justice in this life.
Not lamenting. Lamenting is not the motion.
Repentance is
the motion. Yeah. Lamenting is the one that sets the end. Like you recognize, same way when you start a race, you're not starting a race to run a race. You're starting a race to finish it. But you gotta run the race to finish the race. So it's the motion in between the desire. It's the work to get to the desired end.
Okay.
That piece there, lamenting sets the end. That's what you said, Sipho?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Come again?
that's what you said, eh? The
Yeah, that's what I
lament,
said.
lamenting sets the end. So the okay, well there's a lot before us, but maybe pushing into what I was saying is like a radical position, and then we can maybe go backwards to how the restorative or the corrective fits into that. So if lamenting sets the end, like that's a really interesting thought. I would try to make sense of it by saying, like, for me to recognize injustice, I'm applying an idea of justice. I have an idea of justice. So the very like accounting for, detailing injustice, and I think this is where we can like get a bit more content. Like there's the injustice that is like the one-to-one arithmetic non-equality. Then there's the injustice that is like disproportioned distribution. And then that begins to involve the question of merit or value, or how merit and value or worth ties into the system. But then all of that begs then the question of I suppose like value or worth at the I'm struggling for at the systems level. So the place from which the vision of justice is coming, like what is good, what is the state for? The conversation with Larry is probably helpful here, Sipho, from Wednesday.
Tuesday.
So it's like
Wednesday.
Well, just to tie in with my little note that I sent you guys. One of the things that I'm kind of, you can kind of see where I'm going, is that I'm looking at justice. Is the state's job to ensure a certain state of equality, like economic equality between? Sorry, this is just almost a side note. Equality between its citizens. If the state's duty is justice and to engender justice, a just state, and then the next stage is to say, justice is just economic equality, then it becomes the state's duty to ensure that all citizens are economically equal.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but I think I'll be a grossly oversimplified definition of justice. You get what I mean?
But I think it's quite a popular one, actually, if I'm not mistaken. We've certainly got a lot of force behind it.
I think
it might. Yeah, go for it.
Sorry. It's got to be part. It's got to be part of the picture. And I think let's come back to it.
Yeah,
if I can express I think lamentation really helps us here. Like, and then thinking about what it means for a lament to be full. So if our qualms about injustice are happening from within the system, we when we inquire into them, they keep deferring us into the higher context in which that question arises. So then we get to the state as a whole, or the what is determining the law, and we ask about the justice of the law itself. So when we're lamenting and we are accounting for the injustices that are happening at the, say, individual levels, and then at the proportionate level, even applying the norm of the given state, I think it's my proposition, or the thing that I, because I'm coming into this largely from the context of lament, and there's this curious thing where it seems like and now I guess I'm like making a proposition or proposal, but I think it's grounded. It seems like a lament is not a full lament to the degree to which it pre-configures its end. Like it pre-configures what the release means. In biblical language, it will be something like, a hope that is seen is no hope at all. So if what is latent in my lament is an idea of what it means to be delivered from this condition causing the lament, I'm somehow determining things still according to counting or proportion, to counting or weighing. Like it's still corrective or redistributive justice. There's something that happens at the substantive level where the very terms of the conversation or the conditions of the conversation need to come themselves into question. So the feeling that I'm laboring, or the thing that I'm struggling to express, is that if a lament can be a half lament, a semi-lament, or a full lament seems to be something like a full reckoning, such that the conditions for something new become possible. So then the question is like how to fully reckon with, and then it's like what is full lamentation? Because from that, like from a full account, it seems like and maybe that full account is not hoping for justice by any other means, but a trust that from the full account, because the very act of making the accounting will imply the vision of justice, then the full account is made. But I hope there was at least like some clarity in there. But I get like this is part of
the process.
And also for Lent, it's like lament for Lent. So it's like a procession. This is the contemplation for these days.
What to? Dan, I have a feeling like you're touching towards not just with your theory of lamentation, but it's going towards a theory of lamentation that's a bit like a prayer, if I might be so bold.
Say more about prayer, or?
Well, you were saying that the idea of a lament that is in some sense, I lament that I'm not with this chick that I want to be with, right?
Okay.
Is somehow you're saying that that's a kind of inadequate lamentation, because it already has the conditions of its own fulfillment. It's like if she came into my life, into my bedroom, I would stop lamenting. And you can keep going up, up the chain of goods that you could possibly lament over, or go up and down. And in the same way, we can think of that. And you're saying that there's a kind of this highest justice that we're really, the substantive justice that we're really looking for, kind of transcends any material thing or any material. I mean, that's how I'm interpreting you, at any rate. And any material set of circumstances, or set of circumstances of the conjunction of material circumstances. So, like the Greeks lamenting the fall of Constantinople, or the Jews lamenting the fall of Jerusalem.
Yes.
As big as that lamentation is, as deep and as long running, your theory is to say there's something a bit inadequate about that, because it misses the point of lamentation, which is to go for that highest substantive justice, and that highest substantive. And you can kind of translate what more or less what you say, cast for cast, over to a theory of prayer. The highest prayer, low quality prayers are for you pray for those material things. Sorry, I've sort of overburdened the idea, but
yeah, no, I'm tracking you for sure.
This is just how I read you, and I don't know if you agree with that, or how you feel about it. You're gonna have to think about it probably.
Yeah, I hear you, and I relate. It resonates. I'm curious if Sipho's thinking something at the moment. Otherwise, it relates enough for me to respond now or after.
I hear you. maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm just stuck in my ways, but some reason it's making me think of the 3-step process again I just described.
Yeah.
Because it seems like it's the beginning. It doesn't that it is a 3-step process doesn't mean you have to follow the process for it to verify that you're going through a step. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to repent for me to say, okay, you were lamenting. But it seems like lamenting it seems like lamenting it calls for something. Am I making sense? When
Yes. Yes.
something didn't go the way you wanted, or I don't know, something was taken from you. Like
Mm.
there seems to be a call in you for a restoration, a fixing, or I don't know how to put it. But you can
Yeah.
have that call and not act on it, right? Am I making sense? Like
Yeah.
I can be sick and desire to be healthy and still not do the things I should be doing to be healthy. You get what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can be sick and then, because I'm desiring to be healthy, choose to do the things I have to do to be healthy. It seems lamentation to me seems to be more in the realm of the setting of an end, the setting of an end. And that
Yeah.
sorrow, that deep sorrow seems to show a desire for things to be one way instead of another way. I just think the
Mm.
one way is a cry for something, for a restoration of harmoniousness. I could be wrong about that part. Maybe somebody can lament something that's destructive, but there seems to be
Yeah.
a element of desire tied to it.
There's yeah. I mean, so I mean, I've for some reason,
Sorry.
like, this is, yeah, Tom.
No, I was going to say that I've just been thinking I've got another little bit of it's not quite a spanner, but it's a kind of, if you were to do this more formally, one of I would imagine one of the more obvious, not objections, but things might have to think about is Kierkegaard's 5 stages of grief. You know, denial, anger, bargaining, despair, acceptance. There seems to be some, lamentation seems to be definitely skipping. You've skipped over denial, definitely, because you already know something wrong. You know something. You taking a step to. Well, anyway, sorry. I just threw that. A kind of, is there a parallel? There is I think a parallelism, and I think there's something. Sorry.
What?
No, I think there's,
yeah. Now I was about to say, could you please run through the 5 stages again? I never know the order. I just know acceptance is the end.
Denial,
yeah.
Because then that's the anger.
Yeah.
Denial, anger, bargaining. Despair, acceptance.
Yeah.
So despair seems to be the closest to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, into despair, into acceptance. That seems to be at the place.
We seem to be talking about the last 3 or the last 2. Like it seems like once we get to despair.
Can a lamentation be angry? Let me think of it, because I mean, anger is a response to an injustice.
Yes.
Would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I think that's one of the first ways it begins to make itself known.
The issue with
and yeah.
No, go ahead. Now I was just thinking the issue with comparing the frame of 3 steps to another frame is sometimes How sometimes something, well, most times, not all the time, uh, just this also ties to the politics. Something that does the thing already includes steps in it. So lamentation could include a bunch of steps from the five steps, if I'm even making sense. In the same way that say you're about to start a race, starting a race, you need crouching, all those things that are together and crossing the line. It's already a bunch of steps put in together as one step. It's just that we're not can I say this? Micro-analyzing the step itself. So lamentation could be a couple of the steps in the 5 steps expressed as one step. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Yeah. 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 Sure. So the image of prayer, we have the image of grief, and there seems to be a powerful parallel between the two. So if we say like the prayer that is more petitional, the lamenting aspect of that is like a complaint. It's like, oh, why don't I have this now? Or why are things like this? It's involved in its lost object, or the object that it pines for, or the object that it wants delivered, or in some manner. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure where to go here, because we would want to try and keep as like a full image or perspective as possible. Like we had the kinds of justice that were relating to the kinds of bodies. So, and then the act of lamentation itself, because we were thinking about that in relation to justice. And it's a strange thing to even think that lamentation itself would be functionary or have a function within achieving justice. So I guess that's what we're speaking about most at the moment. How is it that lamentation fulfills something or helps to fulfill justice? Then I think this is where it's worth maybe in this first kind of go at it and in checking the area to try and like press towards the most radical instance, even if that just helps shed light on the stuff that's before it that's still quite hazy. Like and it kind of coincides with this last step of grief, which is a kind of acceptance. So if I come to complain about my situation, say to God, like I throw my hands in the air and I'm complaining for the way that things are, involved in that is the implicit acknowledgement that I am addressing someone. So even in my complaint, I acknowledge God by complaining, or I complain. The complaint itself is this subtle acknowledgement. So there's a demonstration of faith in the act, in the willingness to complain.
I wouldn't be complaining to you if I didn't think
you were there. Yeah.
One, you're there, and two, you're in a position to do something about my complaint.
So then we have
the second one might be more debatable, but the first one definitely.
Well, yeah, we can map it onto those stages of grief. It's like first you deny the fact that there's a problem, then you're angry about it, so you can complain in an angry way. Now you're blaming God for the situation. It's helpful to use God as the ultimate reference, basically. Then you can bargain. You say like, I know it's within your power in order to change my situation, so I complain with the sense that you can release this burden, or then the despair or the depression. Maybe it's a receding from the complaint and then acceptance. Maybe okay, but this it's just meant to
why
help
did you
us
not
along.
help? Like, why did I
Yes.
even bother to ask for your help? I haven't bothered to ask for your help.
Yeah,
Why did
despair. Say again.
Why did you do this to me, you bastard?
Exactly. that level. Even when you say that,
That's like
you still acknowledge
back to
the
anger.
existence.
Back to anger. Yeah. But you're acknowledging. Yeah, you're acknowledging.
Angry, how dare you?
You're acknowledging. Yeah. Yeah, you're acknowledging a referent basically. Okay, I think there's an analogous idea or similar in terms of lamentation, and I also just want to keep this principle on the side of a hope that is seen is no hope at all. So if we're pushing into what the radical stance of faith or of hope is, then we get some kind of measures or standards. So if I'm bargaining, I still have a sense of what I want or need in the situation, and I configure that and I bargain so that I can try and get it. If I'm angry, I have the sense of how things should have been, or there's always this in the act itself, this prefiguration of what is hoped for in the doing it. Then it seems like when lamentation approaches a kind of fullness, it loses the prefigured outcome. So it loses the hopes that are not seen. I mean, the hopes that are seen, and that starts to be could be seen, yes, or seen in the sense that I can pre-configure them.
Yeah.
Because that influences the act of lamenting in whatever subtle way.
But hold on, I think there's a sense in which what you're saying is that the lament leads to a state in which it's a kind of, I don't want to say a Buddhist nirvana because that's going to be a bit cheeky, but like you're kind of letting go of you enter into that third and final substantive justice sort of phase, and your vision is opened in some way. And you kind of
must be misunderstanding.
Yeah, sorry, am I losing you?
No,
I'm saying I must be misunderstanding. I was thinking the way he was describing it, it actually started something like despair. Like when you see no way out of where you are, you can't visualize. You're like, there's no way out of you. You know what I'm saying? That's the impression I
okay. Sorry. So it's like a lamentation that cools in on itself.
So in that recognition of no way out, I think that's like the it's the movement that occurs there, or it's the implication that follows lamentation from the no way out, because that's when the lament stops counting and it stops proportioning. So that's important to the process, accounting for the injustices, having some sense of how things should be proportioned, how they became disproportioned, how our disproportioning of them contributed to the condition or the state that we're in. And there's something that like a full accounting or a full proportioning brings one to a recognition. How did you phrase it now, Sipho? That it's like it can't be otherwise, or
yes,
it seems
you get I can't do anything about it.
Yes.
Which funny enough seems to just leads you, like it leaves you with no other option but acceptance. Like once you feel you can't do anything about something, you seem like you have no other option but to accept.
That would be despair. Despair is the last stage, and then you realize you have no other option but acceptance.
Second
Yeah,
last
it's
stage,
shown
except
the
this
the
door.
moment.
last.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I
yeah,
mean, I meant the last stage before.
yeah.
Oh,
It's this moment. This moment seems to be the what we are trying to configure. Like,
When
so
you
I
get
guess like
shown the door.
when you get shown the door,
Yeah, the last door out. Like
the
you must go.
okay. So here's that paradoxical sense. It's like it's something about that coming to terms with the no way out. There's a sense of a clarity in that moment that seems to imply, just by the willingness to um, account in that way, that it implies something, or there's a seed of a kind of faith there. Because the one thing that is that moment is characterized by is the loss of the hopes that you pre-configure. So then there's something. How do we think about it? Is it an act? Like, is there like what kind of movement moves from something towards which it can't know? Because if it knows what it's moving towards, it's sullying itself again according to its prior determination. So it's like this movement. It's a movement, but to what it can't know, that is somehow the precondition for difference or newness, or what, like
I see what you
it
mean.
might.
You say
Yeah,
essentially what kind of emotion goes to an end that hasn't been designated.
Yeah, it's
That's how
yeah,
I'm thinking about it.
what's the difference between that and like it's like the difference between a real faith and a blind faith.
yes,
Blind faith just sort of is like a kind of gambling, basically.
Mm.
yeah,
Am I following here?
yeah. That it's
Yeah,
beautiful languaging to bring in as well, because
I'm
I
following.
guess we get this uh sure, maybe I'm jumping at it too much, but
Jumpy,
this
jumpy.
Yeah.
so there's a what seems to be like a false blind faith, which is just like, I can't make sense of this proposition, or like I can't think it out, so I'm just going to assent to it because that is my faithfulness. Then there's a blind faith that can't see. It's blind because it can't see its end, and that seems to be like the position of radical faith. Or Sipho's got something.
As you said that, what came to mind when you were describing the three types of justice, what came to mind is a kind of motion that will cause that is one of recognition. For some reason, makes me think of your third, substantial justice, where in a sense of substantial justice, I want justice. I can't get this justice I thought I wanted. When I get to the end point, it's the I can't get this justice feels more like the despair, and then something about that, knowing I'm powerless and I can't do that, seems to propel me to a stage where I question the notion of justice itself, or rather my understanding of the notion of justice itself, and then it opens me up to something. Can I say this? Something that has a greater understanding of justice, something that has a greater understanding and application of justice than myself. In other words, it causes me to move from a motion of my justice to something higher than me's justice. That makes sense.
Yes, yes,
And the
yeah,
despair, the despair somehow, the hopelessness somehow isn't a loss of, it isn't a loss of the desire for justice, or the loss of, I'm not denying in this sense that justice is needed. what I've come to lose is what I've come to realize is my powerlessness to apply my conceived notion of justice. So I've lost my notion of fuck. I feel like I'm talking myself in circles.
No, I think what I keep thinking of with when you're talking, Sipho, is something like the Socratic thing where he says, "The only thing I know is I don't know." When you apply that to this justice, where you in that moment of despair, you're kind of there's a kind of if I let go of my ego for a moment and think of justice as transcending me, you actually enter into a world of hope where there's actually something so beautiful beyond me that it will carry me along.
A sense of justice that is far higher than what we understand, which seems to tie into what we're saying. Because for me, it gives it gives me the notion. It seems like a movement from my justice, my conception of justice as the individual, to a collective, or call it what you want. I don't know, the city or whatever, the collective's notion of justice. I think what's happening now is it's moving us to something far higher than us as individuals, notion of justice, because we realize our powerlessness, and then we give into something much higher. We plead our case to something much higher. And look, I feel I've had an injustice done to me. I feel it needs to be corrected. Clearly, I don't have the power to correct it. So I'm leaving this to a higher power. Highest power. I don't even know how to say what I'm saying.
So I think
assuming.
It's just sorry, just a side note on that is I went through when my house burnt down in Grahamstown.
Sure.
And there were a couple of the guys who said, "I don't believe in God after this," because one of the guys died who was living with us.
Wait, sorry, pause, stop. Were you in the same house as who's this oak? Was he studying law?
Where's Day?
Yeah, Wes. Shit, I was in the same res as him. Like, I didn't know. I heard he passed in the fire. I didn't know you guys were in the same house.
Yeah, we were. No, and I just what that sent me on a thought spiral, and I came to the conclusion it may be true that in some way it refutes God, evil refutes God in some way, but in a similar way, the atheist is trapped in a kind of there's no meaning to Wes's death. On a theistic account with the God, there is a kind of an ultimate meaning. I don't know what that meaning is. I still don't know what that meaning is. I don't know what it taught me, because he was a good guy. He wasn't a bad oak. And he died a horrible, horrible death at the age of 22. I mean, it's actually quite sad. Think about it. And I mean, I don't know, maybe I should ponder that I should meditate on that to discover its meaning. But more vigorously. But my point is that it seems that there's a kind of if atheism or certain kinds of atheism are true, it's almost meaningless. There's like that just happened, and you kind of it's the same as I flipped a coin and heads came up or tails. That's the difference between him living and dying. And I wonder. Anyway, sorry, that was it's a little bit of a digression, and a bit too personal perhaps, but yeah.
No, it's thank you. It's appreciated. I mean, we can't speak about lamentation and justice in any sincere way without it really resonating with things that have really touched us. So it definitely adds a reality to the inquiry. I guess just the carefulness moving forward is So I mean, how, like, a few things that it brings to mind for me, which, and I get your kind of oscillation between the theism and the atheism, but maybe we even just like bracket that level of determination, because as you were speaking about like a deeper meditation of it, and I was wondering, and it's just the kind of it's the words that have come up for me in the last few days, like this idea of being a witness or witnessing something. And there's a kind of, the word in my mind now is like colorless, but that might not be a good word, but there's a colorless appreciation or observation or reckoning with or witnessing of something that is itself functional, and it might actually be the most functional because of the way that it actually witnesses what happens. It doesn't sully itself, or it doesn't pre-configure the end meaning. It gives all of itself to what happened or what is happening, and that very act is what is potentially restorative. It can't prefigure itself as being restorative, but there's the sense in which prior to that manner of reckoning, it hasn't been accounted for. It hasn't been witnessed.
You mean I like that you can't sorry, Sipho, you can't prefigure being restorative.
You're touching on the same point anyway. Like I can already hear you touching on the same point.
Prefiguring being restorative is a bit like being a hero. Someone trying to set out to be a hero.
So how do you mean by that?
No, you get those people who kind of, you get them all over. It's like those guys or people who think that they are here to save the world, and it's quite a self-congratulatory task toward yourself. And there's something quite poisonous in that. I mean, we all do it. I mean, I certainly occasionally I should start being a bit more vigilant about that. You start to think of yourself as a hero. Oh, sorry, I'm speaking more to myself now.
Save your public.
And then
it's the only way I'm assured of intelligent conversation.
this I don't want it to detract from this line, but it might give it might help with context, like this idea of, because so prior to what happened to Ware's day, Sipho was speaking about an appeal to something higher, or an appeal to a justice that comes from something higher. So if we map that onto the sense of justice that just the vague map that we've been using, where this more individual one-to-one sense is like this eye for an eye, and that's this like this arithmetic, or like, well, yeah, one-to-one. It's like reward and punishment at quite an individual level. Then like if a question of justice like presses in that instance, what's higher in that instance is a proportional account, like a weighing. So then, because you have to occupy a wider perspective, it's like it's not just these two individuals, it's the context in which they are in. They operate, or they have different roles within that context. They have a different value to that context. So the way that justice is meted out is proportional according to their contributions or place. At a cultural level, I don't know if you guys will agree with this, but a lot of the arguments around justice seem to happen kind of there, like redistributing wealth because of prior positions of injustice or inequality as the one side of it, and then the proponents for the idea that we should be competence or merit based in terms of how we reward each other and how we're going about things. then both of those,
Yeah.
if they're looking to a higher context, they first need to reckon with the system that they are a part of. At both of those instances, they are determining justice from within a system, which means that they're given the value already, or they're given the idea of virtue and what to be rewarded or what to be punished, like what to be punished means. Then the determination comes to the level of the system as a whole, its wholeness. And just mapping this onto the book of Daniel, it says mene, tekel, uparshin. It's the numbered, weighed, divided. So in that context, it's the numbering and the weighing was off, and then the kingdom was divided. So the writing was on, yeah.
One. Yeah, you can carry on.
Say again?
Sounds like you're saying you reap what you sow in fancy words. As in like, hey, I weighed your stuff. It's like I counted the things you did and I weighed your portion. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, and this is the domain that it's been hard for us to have clarity in. And Thomas, I think this is where your introduction of Wesley Day, it brings the element that's missing, because it becomes non-mathematical, or not simply mathematical, the determination of justice at the level of wholeness. Something else.
Something else? No, I was going to say, because how you quantify a human life.
Yes. And I suppose it occurs at both the other levels as well, because the system as a whole gives the value of the parts that make it up. So it gives the value of people. And we can be outraged at different instances where the system seems to imply quite a quantified value of the individuals that are involved, or dehumanizing, whatever. But then it's at the determination at the level of the whole that we seem to be at. And then the question that occurs there as to how we determine, I mean, this in my thought right now, I have no idea. Like, I just how we determine justice from that place, like, but I think that's why I'm just trying to even get a sense of like the question a bit clearer in my mind, and it's something to do with this inclusion of that sense, the sense of injustice or unfairness in something that happens. Like, where do we get that? Where does that sense come from? Or I'll probably just ruin whatever I said if I keep talking.
Because we all feel we've been wrong at some stage, right? Well, we all get the feeling that we've been wrong, and this doesn't seem to be a feeling that's exclusive to particular people. No. Seems at least that everybody has the capacity to feel when, at the very least, they've been wrong. I don't know about expanding it further. I feel like they've been wrong. Of course, if you're part of a community, when the community is being wrong, it feels as if you've been wrong. And so if that makes sense. And already that longing for correction, are longing for the correction of that wronging. It doesn't seem to be something that's taught. I could be wrong, but it doesn't seem to be something that's taught in us. Rather, what is taught to us is how to correctly, because could be wrong, how to correctly go about addressing the desire to right an injustice that is done to us. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I get your point. That yeah, go for it, Tom.
No, you're saying that we the sense of justice and injustice is not taught to some extent. There's always, no matter who you are, there's always somehow you articulate or feel it in some sense.
It seems.
It seems, but
Especially
the
when it's
sense of,
applied to you.
I've also noticed that most people are more concerned at the injustices done to themselves.
Yeah,
But
especially when it's done to you. People are very aware when an injustice is done to them. More so than when they do it to someone else.
but what you're saying is that what's not taught or not cultivated enough, maybe, if I'm following you, is how do we address when we feel injustice?
No, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying that that's all that has ever been. That's all that has ever been taught to us. Or we've been taught. We haven't been taught to take offense at an injustice committed to us. I could be wrong. Maybe we have. But it seems like we automatically take offense to being wrong. And then what we are taught afterwards is how to address that correctly. Now whether we're being taught in the correct way or not is something I honestly can't be certain of. This is one of my biggest puzzles. Like, as you saying this, like, I'm falling back into my thesis problem of how in the hell are we going to teach? How in the hell are we going to teach something none of us know, and none of us know how to teach it, and none of us know, like, how the hell are we going to do that? So I'm falling back to that problem, except with justice. Like,
that seems to touch back on your... Sorry, Sipho.
Come again?
It seems to touch on, like, because martial arts seems to be a response to injustice. The only appropriate time you use martial arts.
I wouldn't say martial arts is a response. I'd say martial arts is a tool, and well, it's dependent on the person who responds. Am I making sense? Like,
I mean, yeah. I mean, I would say that it's like you're right. It's a tool, but its only appropriate application is in moments, well, of injustice, I would say.
So they say, yeah. So they say that's what they say. Whether they right or not isn't something I'm into here.
Yeah.
Because whether they're right or not now is a step after what we're talking about. Now we're talking about, at least the way I understand it, is justice itself. Justice itself, and when it's applied, not how. I can't even fucking. Sorry, kids are loud. I can't make sense of my thoughts.
Yeah.
This
yeah, Tom.
Are kids tormenting you, Sipho?
Yeah, it's pretty loud, pretty loud. But anyway, that's carry on.
Oh, Grandpa Lee knock on the door.
I think we've made quite a bit of headway here in terms of sorting some of the material, identifying, just like getting a sense of the space. It's worth like reflecting that it's been quite a remarkable coincidence in terms of I've really been on the subject of lamentation for a while, and Thomas brought in the question of justice and inequality, but specifically from inequality, and then we kind of recognize that's located in a question of justice, and the recognition or the realization that lamentation in some way meets with the project of justice is actually pretty remarkable. like justice thought about as the like redistribution of wealth or something, like it's conceived, or I'm in the habit of thinking about it in much different terms to the terms of say, the project of grieving, or identifying ill and naming social ill or imbalance or disproportion. And then maybe, Tom, this is where it's tying Wes in. It also then ties into the individual project of grief or grieving, because it touches. So lamentation is this thing that, like, it's about the individual soul, but then it's also about where that soul is placed, like their relational context, and then the state that they or the community and it's so strange that these things come together. And I suppose it shouldn't be like the
world thing. The universe is one. The universe is one thing.
Well, I mean, I was even thinking of the Bible, like the way that I mean, the prophet is someone who comes and says, like, things are vastly disproportionate. We need to return to something because the injustice that we are embroiled in now and doing is going to we're going to meet the consequences of it, or we are eating the consequences of it now, and we'll be sorry. So we have to return to something. So the I guess the last, in a kind of like summative, because I think moving to an end would be good, but just the sense of the breadth of the project. When I hear the word lament, what I for a long time underestimated was the accounting and the weighing, like that it was part of the project of lamentation is taking careful account of and for exactly like the exact injustices or the exact disproportions. For me, it felt closer to something like a wail or like a crying, or but there seems to be something about lamentation that needs to be really methodical, like a full reckoning that needs to somehow, like, that seems to be important to the whole project, which is aided by this linking of lamentation with justice, with the project of justice, or wanting to fulfill justice. I think, my last point, I'm glad that it's happening in like a conversational space, because even though like we I think there's something to, and this has been like an emphasis or an impetus throughout with Holy Cow, is the sense that like there's something valuable in the act of recording the process of making sense. It's like, it's not delivering the final product of like, this is how things make sense. There's a way we engaging each other, like trying to make sense of something, which means that like we take in quite a bit of chaos at times, and we're trying to see how it fits together and like making it aware. And I think like the recording of that process is itself a kind of information that's worth sharing, even if just to a handful of people.
A handful of weirdos. How's it, guys?
I mean, what are we gonna do? I mean, what else are we gonna do? What else are we gonna do? Hardly get people to talk to any. What else are we gonna do?
So on a note of despair,
that's not despair. That's acceptance.
okay, yes, right. Yeah, it's hard to discern in that space.
It's just low energy acceptance. That's all it is.
I'm not despairing. I just have low energy acceptance.
That's all it is. Just low energy acceptance.
Okay.
Yes.
There seems to be something also about. Anyway, never mind. No, let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
I think we should. Are we closing it at this? Are we closing the video at this?
Ciao, ciao, gentlemen. Have a beautiful evening. Sleep well.
Hey, we're
all
not
the
done. The
rest.
recording's stopping. We're not done.